Bismillahi Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of all the worlds. We want to welcome our friends in South Africa, the United States, and around the world to this week's edition of A Conversation with El-Hajj Mauri Saalakhan. I'm pleased to be your host, coming to you once again through the Salam Media platform out of Johannesburg, South Africa. Salam Media is an online portal for humanitarian journalism. We don't just report the news, we advise you on what you can do about it. Today's broadcast is a salute to women's voices in Women's History Month. By presidential proclamation and certified by Congress in 1987, March has been designated Women's History Month to commemorate and encourage the study and celebration of the vital role of women in American life and history. With that said, all three guests are first timers for on today's platform. So we want to extend an extra warm welcome to each one of them, inshallah. Our sister Asma El-Huni is the national lead organizer for Race Forward Heal Together initiative. Race Forward's Heal Together initiative. She's a proud Muslim of African Arab descent. She has spent her career organizing around issues of immigrant rights, racial justice, economic justice, educational justice, and fighting xenophobia, Islamophobia, and state-sanctioned violence. Our second guest, Serene Junaid, is a senior at Princeton University studying history and minoring in Spanish. She is currently writing her senior thesis on perceptions of Muslims in the U.S. And history of Muslims in the United States since the 1970s. After graduating, she plans on working as a high school history teacher in the Atlanta, Georgia area, inshallah. Rizwan Gul Nur Muhammad is a Uyghur advocate and co-founder of Empower Communities Charitable Trust. Rizwan Gul's brother, Mulin Nur Muhammad, was arbitrarily detained by the Chinese Communist Party in January of 2017. She has been a vocal advocate for his release ever since. Despite facing intimidation from authorities both in New Zealand and the United States, Rizwan Gul continues to speak up for her brother and the Uyghur community. She currently works as a program manager associate for Justice for All, an advocacy organization that campaigns for Uyghurs through its Save Uyghur program. Alongside her advocacy work, Empower Communities Charitable Trust is a non-profit that empowers Uyghur individuals, families, and communities through entrepreneurship, education, and other well-being initiatives. As a Fulbright scholar from New Zealand, she graduated with a master's degree in public administration from Cornell University in 2022. Now, our primary focus for today's broadcast is centered around two questions. What does Women's History Month, this month, designated Women's History Month, mean to each one of our guests? And the second question being, what issue or issues is dominating their attention these days? Without any further ado, we want to welcome our sisters to the platform. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
You're make sure you're not muted, and please speak up as loudly as you can. Um,
وعليكم السلام
let's,
ورحمة الله وبركاته.
alhamdulillah. Let's begin with our sister Asma. How do you respond to these two questions, my sister? And take your sweet time in your response.
Wow. Okay. So the first question was, what does Women's Month mean to me? First, I want to thank you, Al-Hajj Malik, for inviting us, Mauri, for inviting us all. I feel honored and have listened to some of the work that you've done, and so just really honored to be on the show today. So this particular month for me, I feel is an opportunity to really highlight the contributions that women have made, but also the values, the diverse values that they contributed throughout history, but also present day as well. I also see Women's Month as a chance to help us all across the world reframe our perceptions of the roles or that we have of women and the roles that they play in society as well. So, for example, if we have a perception of women being weak, we remember that Aisha radiallahu anha, she led wars, right? And then thinking to present day, we have people like Ibtihaj Muhammad, who represented all of America in the Olympics for fencing, right? And then when we want to think that women are, I don't know, not smart enough, for example, there is this real stereotype that we don't have what it takes, we're not smart enough. We want to remember that the majority of the hadith that we currently use was because of Aisha radiallahu anha. And then we also want to remember also that the universities that we so highly look to today was actually the founded because of a woman. So the oldest university today that is still functioning is in Morocco, and it was founded by Fatima El-Fihri. And so we have her to thank for university life. And so we also want to think of the contributions of uh, female scholars. We have Nanu Asma'u, which is a 19th century scholar who lived in current day Nigeria, but she's responsible for really helping spread Islam to West Africa, right? And so all these women, and I really don't want us to think about these women as being exceptional in a way of being like out of the norm, because all of us are among exceptional women in our lives today that are doing so many different things, that are contributing in so many different ways, whether it's in the hospitals helping people, whether they're in schools, whether they're creating programs, computer programs, whether they're in the sciences. Really, women are everywhere. And one of the things that I also want to highlight is this the other role that I feel like seems to be devalued, and I will just say in not just um, the Muslim world, but also in America, this role of caretaking, this role of mother, this role of wife, which is also, I believe, so very vital and not valued enough. We have it not being valued enough in our society in the US, where it's kind of downplayed as not as important as other roles. But then, interestingly enough, it's also devalued by the same people who promote or try to push that the main role of woman is being a mother. Those same people also devalue the role, though they say one thing, but in reality, when we look at the ways that women are included in, for example, our masajid? Are we being inclusive of women, right? Are we creating a space where women can bring their children, right? Are we ensuring that women are on boards, right? In our masajid? Um, are we again the same people that are saying women's main most important role is being in the home, which I don't necessarily agree with, but I do want to make sure that it is valued as much as we pay lip service to this, because I do believe it's mostly lip service. Those same people do not value the work of so much of the stuff, the sacrifices, the work that women do to maintain a family, including it. It shows up in so many different ways, but including the fact that women aren't given um, the expertise of knowing what's best for a child, and though she's the one who knows the child more than most of the family members, and that she's robbed from the decision making of the people that she knows the most about, and just really not being valued for her contribution. So, just so much that women have done throughout history that they currently do. And unfortunately, I feel there is an erasure of the contributions of women, the value that we bring. And I feel like this is a month to really create new possibilities of restructuring the ways that we are, I want to say, restructuring inclusivity so that we can include women truly in all aspects of our society. And so I think that's what I would say in terms of what this month means to me.
Hmm. Uh, it's interesting, my sister. Your remarks reminded me of two things. The hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where and he said, um, you know, he was asked, who is most deserving of my attention, of my consideration. He said, your mother. And who is next? Your mother. And who is next? Your mother. Three times before responding the fourth time, your father. And it also reminded me of a poem that I wrote years ago, featured in the very first book I published, entitled "The Teacher," um, titled "Oh Mother, How Could I Not Love You?" The poem reads, "Oh Mother, how could I not love you when you were the vessel through which God gave me life? In the darkness of your womb, I developed until the time came for me to break free from that darkness into light. Oh Mother, how could I not love you when from the very beginning, as nothing more than a dependent creature of appetite, you fed me, you cleansed me, you clothed me, and even today, you continue to nurture me in your own way. For whenever the circumstance arises, when I may be inclined to assert the utterly stupendous fact that I got where I am without anyone's help, you remain a check against allowing a reckless tongue to make a fool of me. For all I need do is reflect on you, O Mother, and my totally dependent past, and then ask myself, how could I not love you? So, you know, the role of the women, of a woman, of a mother, is supreme. And, she's the first teacher, she's the first nurse, as you pointed out. And, this is not the only role, but subhanallah, God gave the woman a very unique and masterful role in the shaping of life, and through the shaping of life, the shaping of society. And there is nothing more important than that. So with that being said, let's go to our next guest for today's broadcast, our sister Sareen, a student at Princeton University. What say you, my sister?
Yes, I just want to also thank you so much for having me on your program. It means so much to me that you asked. But I think that, especially being a senior, studying in my final year at a university, I think Women's History Month to me um, makes me look towards the future as to how I can use my education and use this status that I have gained once I inshallah graduate to use my voice and use my own unique experiences as a woman, as a Muslim woman, a as a daughter of Bangladeshi immigrants to the United States. How can I use all of these privileges that I've gained from my foremothers who have sacrificed so much to get me to this place, to make their lives better and to make them proud and to make this world better in their legacy? And that's really what I think about when I think about the start of Women's History Month, what that means to me. I think about legacy, and I really haven't been a woman for too long of a time. I'm only 21 years old. So to me, it's thinking about all the stories that my grandmother and my aunts and my mothers from all aspects of my life have gifted me to inspire me to want to educate the youth of the future, because Sister Asma was saying, that's one superpower that women have. We're the first teachers of the children that we bear, and we have this role of looking after the future that has almost been divinely given to us. And so I think about the impact that we could make and the impact that has been made for people like me, for women like me that have been able to study and further their life, and what can we do in the future. And I really also think that what that means is looking towards making spaces more inclusive to women, and not meaning that we keep spaces created and intended for men to succeed, that there's this expectation that men will come here and work and then they'll come home and they have a wife that takes care of their home life so that they can spend all of their time there and all of their energy there, because that is not a space that is created and truly inclusive for women. And figuring out how can we make leadership spaces, and first of all, we have to truly value the input of women so that we know how to include them in a way that is truly including them without trying to fit them into a mold where the mold wasn't created with their roles, our roles, with our perspectives in mind. And to answer your second question about um, what's one issue that I'm thinking about during Women's History Month, and to me, that's always going to be education. My grandmother, she got married when she was 13 years old to a man that was uh, 20 years her senior, and she had to stop her education in 8th grade. And my mother got married at 17 years old as well. And so I'm just seeing how the generations are building up to what we could have now. And now that I have studied at a university for 4 years and inshallah I'm going to earn a degree, I'm thinking about what does that mean not only for future generations of my family, but future generations of other families, and how can I use um, my own education to give the best gift of all to other families and other little girls as well, which is education. So that's an issue that's very dear to my heart, and it's been the biggest motivator for me to keep studying at university, study history, so that we can be aware of where we come from. Because once we have an awareness of what happened before we were here, what happened to create the present day circumstances that we're experiencing now, that helps us to create a more accurate and more compassionate plan as to what can we do in the future to not only make things better, but also to progress and maybe think in ways that we thought might have been beneficial, but wouldn't actually truly be beneficial and truly inclusive. So yeah, that's been the biggest motivator for me to pursue education as my career. And yeah, that's what I have to say.
Alhamdulillah. Teachers affect posterity. They know not where their influence stops. The fruits of their labor is never for naught. Without them, civilization would stop. It takes great dedication, love, and commitment to be one of quality. And from them come the leaders of vision and strength that will lead us to victory. No doubt, my dear sister, you're going to be an outstanding teacher in the classroom and in life, inshallah ta'ala. Sister Rizwan Gul, I have really been looking forward to hearing from you. You know, this issue of what has been happening to our brothers and sisters in East Turkestan has been, heavy on my heart. I want to welcome you to the broadcast and invite you to make to share your own opening thoughts, inshallah.
Yeah. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me for today. And this is my first time ever that I am connected to the audiences through Salam Media. So once again, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I take this opportunity as advocating my Uyghur people, not as an individual myself, but on behalf of the Uyghur woman, and that be related to the Women's History of Months. This month, Women's History Month, as I understand that it celebrates the contributions of women throughout the history as well as our contemporary society. And those, of course, including from the diverse cultural background and the stories and the painful experiments of us Uyghur women we have been having under the Chinese regime, that it's related to discrimination, persecution. Now it's amounted to genocide. This can be a powerful reminder of the need to promote human rights of all the women around the world, not only the Uyghurs. And additionally, now the situation of Uyghur women under the Chinese regime has gained international attention. And we have had credible human rights reports of genocide, reports of human rights abuses, witnesses, testimonies of those inhuman treatment in the camps as well as outside camps in the region that is currently under Chinese control. Those abuses including forced labor, sterilization, sexual violence, as well as separation from family, especially separating the children from the mothers. And this month can serve as an opportunity to raise awareness of these issues and advocate for the rights of Uyghur women. And furthermore, I have to, related to this month, I have to also would like to add that Uyghur women have played a critical role in the history as well as now in the preservation of our culture, tradition, in the face of oppression that has been going on since 1949 when the Chinese government took over our homeland. And the Uyghur women have been the leaders in the struggle of Uyghurs. They have worked to keep our language and the cultural practices alive, to pass these to Uyghur children, the next generation. For example, there are at least 12 child cares based in Istanbul, Turkey, because Turkey is hosting probably the most majority of Uyghur diaspora, probably around the 50,000. So there are at least 12 Uyghur mother language childcare centers, which actually really need help now. And those child cares, all of them, I have contact with them, all of them are established as well as run by Uyghur women, Uyghur mothers. They do have their own family, they have their children, they have their social, political, financial struggles, but they keep going. Why? Because they would like to revitalize, preserve the Uyghur language to the next generation. So recognizing the contributions of the Uyghur woman during this month can raise awareness of our struggle, as well as inspire others to support our cases. Lastly, I would like to I would like to thank you for your poem, because when you were reciting your poem, it really made me cry.
Mm,
It reminds me of my own mother.
mm,
Um, um, sorry, I become emotional because my connection, the very very the connection that I have with my mother
mm.
was cut off. Since like 2017, we did have some phone communication here and there, but since end of 2020, it was all cut off. Still now, I don't know how is my mother doing, how is my brother doing, how is even my family, like relatives, everyone is doing that. We don't know. We don't have. Look, when we have the chance now to just press a button to connect with someone else on the other side of the world, Uyghurs, we don't have that privilege. My mother, she was a teacher. My father was a teacher. They have raised me up well. They raised me up just like any other Uyghur parents, that be responsible for the society and take care of each other. So all my strings, all my encouragement and my motivation is from my mother. When I like years back, like when I told her that I would like to develop my career in charitable, uh, for helping others, and then she was so delighted, because she said this is a career where you help other people, so you will get rewards, as well as you will be satisfied you're doing this job. Later on, when I established Power Communities Charitable Trust, I couldn't tell her, I couldn't inform her. I believe that she's still praying for me silently, because they can't pray openly, they can't practice Islam, they can't even make dua, they can't even say Bismillah or Assalamu alaikum in their daily life, because they can be taken away anytime by the Chinese authorities. This is not exaggerating. This is a real life that Uyghurs back home they are experiencing. That's why when you recited the poem, I was almost in tears, and I pray that Uyghur women in diaspora, as well as in under our homeland, that under the Chinese government, keep strong in their iman, and also
Hammy.
um, be courageous. Of course, back home they don't have much opportunity, but Uyghur women in diaspora. That's why I also try to help them in many ways as possible, because they need support. We need support. We need encouragement. And we need platforms like this to tell that we are part of the Ummah. And your struggle is our struggle. Our struggle should be yours as well. So let's take care of each other, raise our voices for those who are voiceless. May Allah reward us all.
Amen. Amen. My dear sister, I'm so sorry to hear that it's not just your brother. I was wondering about that. Are other members of your family also impacted? And you just shared with me that they are. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fortify you first and foremost as that courageous voice in a space that enables you to be the advocate needed for our brothers and sisters who are suffering that type of abuse. As you correctly described it, genocide is taking place in China. And may Allah ta'ala uh, uh, bless the efforts that are being made to be fruitful. Let me ask you this, Sister Rizwan Gul. Um, it was mentioned in your introduction that authorities in New Zealand and the United States are, you've been facing intimidation from them. What are you at liberty to share what that intimidation has been?
Yeah. Thank you for asking that question. Let me correct here. When I mentioned authorities, it refers to the Chinese authorities, not the
All right.
New Zealand or USA government authorities, not at all.
Okay.
This kind of intimidation started when I spoke out for my brother. Before that, I didn't receive any intimidation from Chinese government. not in any form. But when I started to speak for my brother in New Zealand, then I started to receive intimidating phone calls. The phone calls can come from any kind of phone number, sometimes local, sometimes when you can see that that's country code is based in China. So they call me, and then when I take the call, what I hear is a voice message, like autoplay voice message. It says, "Hey, you have to come to the Chinese embassy. You have important document to pick up." Or it can be saying that, "Hey, you have to provide important documents that we requested, otherwise your application will be closed," or something else. Around these lines, I kept receiving it. Why I receive it? Because they know that I am speaking up. They would like to threaten me because they know that we know what you're doing, and then this is how we intimidate you. You need to stop. But I didn't stop. And when I came to the US for my study, within the first week, I received a similar phone call. Of course, it's USA numbers, but the message is the same. If this was not an intimidation phone call, like what should I say, Because I also heard that from other Uyghurs who are speaking up for their families, they received the same phone call. Of course, there is a law. They don't come, may Allah forbid, that physically harm you, but they like psychologically, do the intimidation,
Yes.
make you scared. Sometimes it's not just a coincidence. I receive phone calls just before some events happening. Of course, today I didn't receive any because this is all email communication. We corresponded, but sometimes if it's like publicized open events that where I speak, I receive such phone calls. But now I put my phone. I opened up the function that unrecognized. My phone does not receive any phone calls that is coming from unrecognized or unsaved numbers.
Okay.
I mean, it's not because I'm scared, but I just don't need these bothers, But I keep speaking up as long as Allah gives me the chance. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. May Allah Ta'ala bless you to continue to have a strong voice on behalf of our brothers and sisters who are suffering in that tortured part of the world. Sister Asma, have you seen over the past few years especially, have you seen significant progress in the way that women within Muslim circles, within Islamic circles, are recognized and respected the way that they should be according to Islam, according to the example that was set by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Rashidun caliphs that succeeded him?
That's a great, and that's a big question. It's a great question. I preface before sharing the good example. For every good example, there's 20 bad. I have to say there's still a lot of work that needs to be done all across the world. The Muslim world does not have a monopoly of oppression of women. Clearly, we see a lot of that here in the United States.
That's right.
I also have a certificate in domestic and sexual violence where when I was in New Hampshire and Vermont, that's something I did on a volunteer basis. So there's nothing on the Muslim world or any part of the world in terms of oppression of women. But it's really good that we offer some good examples of some of the things that we are seeing that is positive. Serene mentioned that she is a student of Princeton. My husband's actually the chaplain at Princeton University, and I would like to lift up some of the practices that I saw that are pretty awesome. And so one of the things that they really try to do is ensure that the people understand that it's really important to center women's voices, and including in Jama'ah. And so a practice that the Imam, the late Imam, may Allah be pleased with him, Suhaib, started was ensuring that after every Jum'ah prayer, a woman come up and do a dua. And I will say this is a practice that has really struck me as being so profound, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the dua of the week, he listens to the dua of the week, and we know a woman is an oppressed class being a woman. And so when a woman comes up and stands before her whole community and makes dua and raises her hands and everyone follows with Ameen, that is powerful. And so to see that happen, and I don't know if there's any other place that actually offers this. They do this consistently every Friday, every Jum'ah. It's just a really good practice. I'm also seeing more of women joining boards on the masajid, which is great. I will say with the caveat, oftentimes they're joining boards and they don't have enough power. They're not giving actual power. It's almost tokenized. But there are places where women are asserting themselves in positions of power. So I'm pretty happy to see that that is happening, but there's a lot of work that needs to still happen there. In terms of other practices, I'm finding that there is more of an openness in a lot of our communities in terms of understanding that when there is a conference or a panel, to ensure that they're including women leaders. For the longest time, panels will happen with all males. And so there's been a real grassroots effort by Muslim women to really push to ensure that when people see events with all male panels, to really demand that there should be women, because we have women professionals in all these fields. Why aren't they being called on? And oftentimes the excuse is, oh, they don't want to. Come on, there's a list of women that you can call. Please don't say one woman couldn't come and you couldn't contact someone else. There's no excuse for that. It's vital when we're talking about any topic that we're including women. I'm seeing it being done, but I feel like there's still a lot of growth that still needs to happen in this area. Our community can't be healthy without women. Our community can't think of solutions without women. We are half the population. And so it's really vital that we're included in every aspect of thinking of how to move forward, and not just in the family realm, but even in all facets of our society. So just wanted to share that. And I know brother, I forgot to mention what's weighing heavily, and I'm glad Serene said education. Education is another area that's weighing heavily on me as well. And I know you did mention that I'm lead organizer for Race Forward, and our campaign is really about organizing grassroots effort across the country to really promote honest, accurate, fully funded education, because what our children oftentimes receive is a very whitewashed version of history. And there are schools that are really trying to really put an effort in ensuring that we're sharing real, accurate information about real history. So it's not the discovery of America. I mean, it's the colonization of America, right? There were people here already. It was never founded. But also just the erasure of the contributions of Muslims throughout history. Oftentimes, that needs to really be addressed. And so what we're doing is just really trying to promote equity within schools and trying to help people understand public education is a public good, and that we need to actually invest in public education, not taking away from the role of Islamic schools in the country. We understand the vital role that Islamic schools play, but there is a responsibility that this nation has towards Muslims, towards people of color, towards everyone really living in this nation, which is to provide accurate, fully funded, equitable education to everyone. Everyone is deserving of that. So that's something that I'm organizing around, trying to really get people to organize locally to demand our schools be better. And this is countering the current cultural war that's happening, where there's a manufactured attempt to divert funds away from public education and into private, so that corporations can really control and make money off of schools. So we're just trying to get people to understand, yes, schools aren't the best, but we need them to be better, and we have to organize for them to be better.
Sister Serene, you're a student about to graduate from Princeton, and what has your observation and experience been concerning the representation of the voice of women on campus?
The representation and voice of women on campus. Well, as a history major, I feel as though most of the things that I learn are about the history of conquest, the history of war. It almost feels as though like there's nothing to learn except for like how someone earned this or how someone gained something else. And I think that as academia becomes more diverse, as the student bodies of various prestigious institutions like Princeton, like colleges all across the world become more diverse, I think it'll force um, perspectives to be more diverse, and for the subject areas that people study to become even broader. And in that same vein, to accept a more diverse amount of historical sources as being valid. Like, for example, I would say that a new burgeoning kind of source that is becoming more acceptable in the academic space is oral histories, because that is how so many cultures and so many stories and so much knowledge that we currently hold in our own communities comes from these histories that were passed down as stories from generation to generation. But if it's not recorded in a written document, if it's not found in some sort of economic document, government document, then it's not considered an accurate source of history. So I think that we're in a really exciting time right now, because especially at my university, every single year they're showing off how each incoming class is becoming more and more diverse, whether that be socioeconomic, racial, ethnic, whatever category you can find. They're always saying that they're so proud about how their student body is becoming more diverse. I still think there's more work and more room they can make for diverse voices, but I will say I have seen it to start happening during my time at university, and I think that's the key. I think it's that not only do you have to make room for a more various a more variety in the voices that we hear, that create history, that our future generations learn, that our children learn. But it's also really important to make sure that we don't create a sort of framework that everything has to be squeezed into and sanitized into, to make sure that, okay, this is now the acceptable thing that we want to pass on to our future generations. I think it's really important to, especially in the field of humanities, because the field of humanities is studying what it means to be human, and inherently what it means to be human is to include our own voices and our own perspectives. And the way that we study the world is very much unique to the experiences that we've had individually. And so, because history has to be inclusive of much more perspectives than the ones that we have let into the field historically and traditionally. So I think that we're at a really exciting time right now in the space of education, but I'm really excited to see what happens in the future. But I also think that the figures that have authority are the ones that need to be watched the most. So we have to continually be putting pressures on, the faculty of universities, the people that are in charge, to make sure that not only are they just saying that they want things to be more diverse, but they truly know what that means, and they have more compassion and acceptance for the values that they have, and they don't just keep it at a superficial level.
Great. Sister Rizwan Gul, subhanAllah, you shared with the audience the tremendous weight of the oppressive weight that's on your tribe, that's on your people, it's on our brothers and sisters in that occupied land that we know as East Turkestan, that Chinese government chooses to reference by another name. And what's being done to the women and the young girls, is something that should be of even greater concern for us because of the role of women, the important role of women in any healthy society. What would you like for the audience to know? What would you like for those who are who are capable of sharing, empathizing with at the very minimum, empathizing with what is taking place there? What would you want to ask of them? What could those outside of that part of the world do to assist in this effort, to alleviate the oppression that's taking place there, the genocide? What ask would you make?
Mhm. Yeah, thank you for asking this question. First and the most is that I would like to ask the panelists as well as the audiences to educate ourselves and the people around us about the situation of Uyghur women, especially those who are under Chinese territory, Chinese regime. So learn about the human rights abuses that we are facing back home. As I mentioned earlier, forced sterilization, forced labor, and sexual violence, family separation. There are a lot more. The list can go on actually. We have testimonies from those female camp survivors, the real Uyghur woman who stayed in the Chinese camp for some time and experienced the torture themselves, as well as they witnessed other Uyghurs how they are oppressed, how they are tortured, both in the camps and outside the camps. We have credible reports, testimonies on YouTube, and anywhere you search up. Please, through those, educate yourself and others, and also give opportunity to be this information to delivered to the audiences widely as possible. From those who receive this information, we may have people who can speak up for them. Some people maybe just absorb the information and they are busy with something else. Of course, they can't do anything much. But those who have the opportunity and the courage to speak up, please speak up. You can contact us to get any information. Invite us to speak. Invite especially those who stayed in the camps to speak, to tell you the real stories of their own.
Okay.
And another thing I would like to emphasize that we need to practice ethical consumerism. Of course, the consumerism is not a nice word to say, but we are living in a world now that everyone is kind of encouraged to buy more stuff. But be mindful of where this product is coming from.
Yeah.
Avoid purchasing products that are linked to the human rights abuses in China. Now we have Forced Labor Prevention Act, which became law in USA. So when you look at if it's made in China, and the China is written in another way on any item you may buy that made in People's Republic of China, PRC. Made in China, made in PRC is the same thing. They are made in China. So now it's almost impossible that you can find a product without the linkage to the human rights abuses, linkage to the forced labor in China, because our women, our brothers, they are targeted for forced labor in China. Recently, we also came to know that there are leaked videos showing that intermediate school girls, Uyghur boys are now removed from the region, Uyghur homeland to the inland city to produce products for the China to make money. So please be mindful of where this product is made. Of course, you may say that I'm just a one person, just buying a T-shirt. Like if it's made in China, if I stop buying it, it doesn't make big difference, right? But if we more and more people do that, eventually it will have an impact. Why
Yes.
China is so strong now? Because of the economy. Because of the economy. And we don't say that, China should not get strong, like should not like prosper. No, we are not. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that those products we buy, that it has the tears and the injustice, tears of Uyghurs and injustice and the oppression that our brothers and sisters are facing. My brother, he he was taken away for the education camp, right? They say, oh, this is a training camp, but no, he was a full-time employee at the China Telecom, and he also had small businesses. Beside that, he's a hardworking, very decent guy. He was taken away. First, he was taken away to the camp. Then he was put in jail in the Bingtuan. Bingtuan is a Xinjiang production construction, the whole center. I think that most likely he is under forced labor. If I buy anything from China, it could be made by my brother. And my brother can be targeted for organ harvesting as well, because Chinese government has taken DNAs of Uyghurs and they are selling halal, remember this word, halal organs of Uyghurs when on request. So if there is an organ request, halal, especially organ request, especially from our Muslim brothers and sisters who need for their life, I understand. But when such request happens, what does Chinese government? It is all under the Chinese government, believe me, because it could be just a hospital, but it is under Chinese government. They can match this request to the DNA data that is in, like, showing all the DNA information from the Uyghurs, and then they can find that person, like despite it's been in camp or prison or outside camp or prison, they can take that person for any reason. They don't have to tell the reason why you are arrested. They can take it and get the organs. And there are special ways, special corridor signed at the airport in the Uyghur region. We have the photos that this is the way you deliver the organs in a fastest way possible. So be careful what you are buying, including organs from the Chinese source. Thank you.
Okay, my sisters, I knew that this hour would go fast, and it has. I want to thank all three of you for joining us today, and if there's something that you would like to say within a 30-second time frame, a closing thought in a 30-second time frame, please do, Sister Asma.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Sister Rizwana Girl. I really appreciate the call to action that you've given us. Thank you, and I will try to do my best. And just hoping that our viewers that are watching today and also the panelists can also make the connections that are also happening in the U.S. when we're talking about forced sterilization in the immigration detention centers. They're forcing immigrant women, they're sterilizing them here in the U.S. When we're talking about separating families, also immigrant camps, but also our prison systems are forcing families, separating families, right? So we need to rethink of the ways that we are dealing with the issues that we have in our society, and punishment isn't the way to deal with our societal problems. So just really lifting up thank you for the boycotts, and also making sure we're all being responsible consumers and also participating in BDS as well. Thank you so much.
All right, Sister Serene, 30 seconds.
Yeah, I just want to thank you so much again for including me on this panel with these two amazing, amazing women. I am so incredibly inspired, and yeah, I just feel really honored to be here. And Sister Rizwan Gul, Sister Asma, I take everything you've said to heart, and I'll try and do my best and continue to talk to my friends and talk to everyone I know to support your causes, because it means everything to us as women, as Muslim women, as people part of this ummah. And yeah, just thank you so much, and you two are such an inspiration to me.
Alhamdulillah. Sister Rizwan Gul, 30
Thank,
seconds.
thank you again for giving us this opportunity to talk, as well as get to know each other. I'm very, very. I can see the youth, the vibrant, like the inspiration from the Sister Serene, and the motivation, the strong, firm, motivation from the Sister Asma for the community work. So I'm also quite inspired, and I'm privileged and honored to have this opportunity to know you, as well as these fantastic two sisters. And I hope that we will have more opportunities to listen to each other, listen to each other's issues, how we can bring solutions together by supporting each other. So thank you so much, and all the best for all the work that we are doing, and may Allah give us easiness as well as support
Ameen.
along the way. Thank you.
Thank you, my sisters. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all three of you and your families, the communities from which you come, and inshallah ta'ala, the struggle will continue. I want to close with this thought. Early this morning, after my Fajr Salat, my early morning Salat, or prayer, a memorable poem of the late Harlem Renaissance writer and poet Langston Hughes came to mind. As I reflected on Afia Siddiqui having marked her 20th birthday in unjust captivity just a few days ago. Her 20th birthday. Courtesy of that fabled land of liberty and justice for all called America. Langston Hughes wrote that justice is a blind goddess, is a thing to which we blacks are wise. Her bandage hides two festering sores, which once, perhaps, were eyes. With that said, on that closing note, we want to end the broadcast as we normally do with Surah Al-Asr. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wal Asr. Innal insana lafi khusr. Illa alladhina amanu wa amalu salihat. Wa tawassaw bil haqq. Wa tawassaw bis sabr. Which means, in the translation of the meaning, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, by the token of time through the ages, surely humanity is in loss, except those who believe and do good, and exhort one another to truth, and exhort one another to patiently persevere. Peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum.